I speak to hundreds of people who are considering divorce and have come to the conclusion of a few things. First, there are times where you just need to get divorced. One is when it's not safe to be in your home with your spouse. You need to get divorced. You need to get out, and you need to do it with a safety plan to make sure that you're safe, because that is the most important thing. Another reason that people should get divorced is when there's damage done to the relationship that they've already tried to repair. They've done what they could, but they realize that it's whatever damage was done is not fixable, and they just need to move on. While we don't like the idea of divorce, there are times where it's better to cut your losses and move on to the next chapter than it is to stay stuck in a situation that just makes you miserable. There are times where divorce seems like the most logical option. For example, if you're in a sexless marriage, most people don't want to be in a sexless marriage. If you're in a sexless marriage, it might be time to end it. But the thing about any marital problem is communication. If you can talk about the issues and work together to come up with a solution that works for both of you, then you're in a marriage that you might want to talk about and try and work through. But if you don't have the communication to try and work through those issues, there's nothing that you can do together that's going to save your marriage. But you shouldn't get divorced just because you're unhappy today. You may be unhappy for a day, a week, sometimes even a month in a marriage. There may have been something that happened that hurt you. You may feel that the only option for you is divorce. That's not necessarily the case. I've spoken with people who have been in marriages that they should have gotten out 10 years ago. I've spoken to people who are in a marriage that just went south real quick. I've spoken with people who are in a situation where they were calling divorce lawyers, but every time they spoke about their spouse, their voice lit up. My answer to that is you don't want to get divorced. If you look at your spouse and you think, we have these issues, but I don't want to do life with anybody else, then you should probably stay and try and work it out. If the thought of being alone is worse than being with them, see if you can work it out, because that means there's still something there. And sometimes going to a counselor or going to a trusted friend or family member for help can be beneficial. If you can communicate with your spouse effectively, sit down and talk to them about how you're feeling, if it's safe for you to do so. Because if you can save your marriage and not get divorced, that's almost always the way to go. Even if you feel helpless in your marriage, you're not helpless. There are things that you can do that maybe divorce is not right for you. So what can you do if you're on the edge and trying to decide what's best? You can always take some time. Take time to yourself. Maybe take a week away, a week without the kids, a week without your spouse, and think about what you really want. Because maybe it starts there. If you are 100% sure you know exactly what you want, maybe you talk to your spouse with or without a counselor. And if you can't communicate with them openly and efficiently and effectively without a counselor, seek a counselor. I usually recommend you go to an individual counselor and a couples therapist so that you can work through what you're feeling and what you're dealing with. And then you can come together and work through the relationship issues together. Sometimes the problem in the relationship is just differing opinions or differing views. And maybe you can work through some of those things and just realize what you're seeing and what they're seeing on your own. Then there's couples counseling. Couples counseling will allow you guys to work through the issues together. If that doesn't work, and you want to stay married, but you want to separate, then I recommend a legal separation. A legal separation in Nevada ends the community. So everything you acquire will be yours and theirs. It won't be a community anymore. But you're still married and you still get some of those benefits. For example, your spouse's health benefits, you'll still be able to use. So if you're in that position, we want to make sure that you get the help you need, because legal separation is very similar to divorce, except the bonds of matrimony, as they call it, stay intact. What you decide there regarding custody and regarding a division of the assets can follow you in the event that you decide to get divorced. Keep in mind, with a legal separation, you cannot get remarried, as you're still married to your spouse. I encourage people who are considering divorce, meaning that they're not even 100% sure they want to get divorced yet, to talk to an attorney. That way, it gives you the chance to plan ahead. You can think about how your life looks now, what needs to change, and you can take steps to proactively protect yourself. For example, you can financially prepare. If you've been a stay-at-home mom, you can get a job, you can work out childcare issues, you can save money. Another thing you can do if you're planning ahead is build a social support group. You can build a group of people in your life. You can find support from friends, from family members, from support groups. Facebook even has places where people who are going through divorce go and discuss how they're feeling. You're going to need to have support, because it is emotionally taxing to go through a divorce. This is like closing a chapter on a book that you wrote thinking it would last forever. So when that ends, you're going to likely go through a grieving process. Another thing you can do to prepare is just assess where you're at. How are you feeling? Make sure you know that this is what you want and that you're ready to take these steps. Get your social support ready. Get your child care in line. Figure out what your custody schedule looks like. Pay attention to your schedules. Pay attention to who's responsible for what child care. Which spouse is doing the transportation to and from soccer practice? Who's picking up and dropping off from school? Who's babysitting? Pay attention to the finances. Where is the money going? Where can you save, and how can you make more if necessary? I always encourage people to reach out before you get to the point where you're filing that complaint for divorce. That way, you can make sure you're ready to proceed. If you're at the point where you're considering divorce, give us a call and let us help you evaluate your options. Let us help you see what your next steps look like. You won't see the next step until you take the first. Give us a call.